Okay, good afternoon. With the continuation of last class, actually we were discussing on optical microscope. So the next version is electron microscope. So still we need to have in-depth discussion on optical microscope. Anyhow, let us have a look on electron microscope and its speciality, its applications, unique features and all. Then we can again move to optical microscope and let us compare the electron microscope and its features with optical microscope. Right. So, uh, this is the physical setup of standard scanning electron microscope. So you could see here the sample can be placed over here, and you can see the magnified picture by using the smart display systems, and that can be magnified once if you want to go in depth of the information that you want to collect in nanoscale. And this is the overall setup. So here the sample holder would be here, and you can place your sample here, and all other parts. Anyway, we are going to see one by one. Right. So let us compare the optical microscopic image with excuse me, scanning electron microscope. You could see here the optical microscope and its resolution compare with scanning electron microscope and its resolution. So scanning electron microscope will provide you the information beyond the limitation of optical microscope. So that's the reason why we are going for electron microscope. And from the name itself, we can understand optical microscope uses the optical energy. Electron microscope uses the electronic energy, that is electrons. Like photonic energy as a parent medium to analyze the material structure, we are going to use electron as a parent source to analyze our material structure. Right. So these are the major differences from the optical microscopy. How to classify it? You could see here. Uh, the beauty of this technique, electron microscopic technique, is we are able to tune the wavelength of electrons. As we know that from the postulates of quantum mechanics theory, it says electrons can be acting like waves and particles as well. So, once if I want to tune the wavelength of electrons, that is possible to be here. That's one thing. But if you go for optical microscopy, only the certain wavelength can be used to analyze your material. But here you are able to tune it. That's one thing. So because of that, you are able to go for very high resolution of electronic image, up to zero point 0.1 nanometer. You are able to magnify. So that is the beauty. Another point, compare with photonic energy, that is light, electrons are able to interact much more strongly with the material. So the resolution of the derived pictures as the derivative of SEM would be really excellent compared with optical microscopy. And another thing, we are expecting the vacuum system here. Optical microscope, there won't be any vacuum system is needed. Simply with the aid of the light energy, we are working with optical microscope. But here we need the vacuum system, and its pressure is also given here. So very low pressure has to be maintained in the vacuum chamber of your scanning electron microscopic tool. Right. Why electrons? So electrons can be acting like waves that we know. We are going to adopt the wavelength and wave related uh, postulates are derived by quantum mechanics theory. That only we are going to take up, and we are going to apply the scanning electron microscopic technique. Right. Okay. So once if you have the look on the basic history, it has been innovated by a German scientist in 1930. But that time light microscope was really better compared to scanning electron microscope. And by the generation they introduced in 1963 with, by Cambridge University, the excellent tool of completely designed module of scanning electron microscope has been released. And by using that microscope we are able to go up to 50 to 20 nanometers. So the magnification factor is also given from 20 to 75,000 x. So 75,000 times you are able to magnify. So you can obtain the very high resolution pictures of your sample that has to be analyzed. And nowadays, the modern instruments, it's resolved typically up to 2 nanometers with magnifications up to 2 lakh times you are able to magnify. So that is the advantage of scanning electron microscopes. Okay, so this is one of the interesting picture. If you go for optical microscopy, you are able to magnify a small insect and its body can be looking like this. If you go for optical microscopy, but here, you know what it is? Can you imagine what it is? What it is? These are the compound eyes of this insect. So you could see here by using optical microscope, you are able to magnify the whole structure. But exactly a particular point has to be magnified. That's my expectation. I can go for SEM and you could see the beautiful picture. These are the compound eyes of the same insect. So the resolution is excellent compared with optical microscope. Right. Then why we need to go for electrons? Instead of all other particles, why should we focus on electrons? Because as I said, wave behavior and particle behavior. So once if it is behaving like waves, which is going to interact with your sample and it will be getting diffracted from the surface of your specimen, that has to be magnified and it will provide you very good resolution of pictures. That's one thing. Another thing, you are able to analyze the chemical analysis, the chemical stability of the material. Suppose if you choose electron as a charged particle, so both the behaviors are possible. So apart from the magnification, you are able to go for some chemical analysis also, as electrons are acting like charged particles, right? So we have to generate the electron beam as a source, like the way how the light energy is acting like the source to analyze your material in optical microscopy. So we have to generate electron beam. How to generate? Okay, there are two possibilities. Multiple elements are used in the market to produce the electron beam. One thing is by using thermal energy, by using temperature, we are able to produce electrons in the form of beam that can be generated. Okay, you just imagine I have an element, it's like a filament like this. So from the filament, the electron beam has to be generated. Already this filament is uh, it's associated with some particular surface potential barrier. So that will determine the work function of this filament. Basically, I have to overcome, I have to overcome that surface potential to allow the extraction of electrons from the conduction band as the emitted electrons. So I have to have very high amount of thermal energy to overcome the surface potential to allow the electrons which is simply participating in the conductivity in conduction band to be coming out as the electron beam with very high energy. That is one thing which is called thermionic emission. Another possibility, field emission. Input energy here is temperature and here I am going to apply the high electricity. The amount of very high electricity which is employed to reduce the surface potential, like the way how the uh, thermal energy is going to overcome the surface potential here, so it will produce the emission of electron beam. So there are two possibilities. So the typically the filaments would be like this. Different materials are played to design these specialized filaments. Tungsten is one of the excellent medium to produce E-beam. So you could see here, this is tungsten tip, which is a nanoscale actually. So from the tip, the electron has to be produced like a beam. Just imagine like a rifle. Suppose we want to shoot, we want to make a fire. So once if you press the knob, how the bullets are coming out in the way. Once if you apply the input energy from the tip, electrons would be coming out in the form of beam. So some other filaments are given here. Tungsten, among all other filaments, tungsten is excellent. Okay, right. This is very important part for us because we are using optical energy in case of optical microscope to get the resolution of the amoeba structure or whatever the biological samples that you would have experienced in your school days. In the same way, I am expecting the ultra brightness of the source, which has to be coming out by using electron microscope. Okay, by using optical microscopic principle, just imagine once again, you just recall what you did by using optical microscope with the support of light energy. You magnify the structure of amoeba or bacteria and whatever biological sample in your school days you might have done. So the resolution based on the light intensity. But here I am using electrons. How the electrons are going to interact with the sample of amoeba, for example, amoeba, once again, if I take the example, right, from the amoeba structure, the electron has to be diffracted from the theory, what it says in the previous slide. It has to be diffracted, and that diffracted electron has to be collected, and the amoeba structure has to be magnified in which way I want. So here also brightness is mandatory. Brightness in the sense like to obtain very good resolution. So we'll see here, brightness of the source is the current density. In which way you can say your optical microscope output is based on light intensity. Here, because of the current density per unit solid angle of the falling angle and diffracted angle has to be taken for our account in scanning electron microscope. So electrons instead of photons we are going to use here. Then what is current density? Generally, how to measure it? In a current carrying conductor, if I want to measure current density, I should know that particular area, in which area the current is flowing in that conductor. In such a way, we are able to go for the improved sensitivity of the images that you are going to obtain, and even contrast also. And how to increase the brightness? By going for different excellent filaments. Lanthanum hexaboride is one of the filaments, but I said tungsten is an excellent material. So lanthanum based materials and its work function is somewhat lesser compared with tungsten. So tungsten is a preferred material. Okay, and some additional points to improve the brightness, that is resolution, is given here. The smaller source size, like even in previous slide I have shown. Yeah, these are the tips, sharp tips, which is in nanoscale. It is looking like this, but generally it is not visible to our human eyes. The sharpness is not visible to our human eyes. Its ultra sharpness will provide you the very good resolution. That's what they are trying to say. Okay, so finally the last point says field emission, how it is implying. A brightness increases of 10 to the power of 4 times over a thermionic tungsten filament. So finally, it concludes that tungsten is an excellent filament medium to produce the electron beams. Okay, right. Yeah, these slides, I mean 3 or 4 slides are going to be followed, very, very important, which will provide you the principle of operation of a standard scanning electron microscope. Right. You may ask me a question. Light energy is not hazardous, so directly I can use light energy in optical microscopy, even though if its resolution is poor, I won't bother about it. But anyhow, which is very safe. I don't want the vacuum space and all, like scanning electron microscope, I would expect. And also electrons, which is harmful, right? You need to handle that electron being generated in proper way, or else it may damage the whole environment. So why should I go for electrons? Let us see. I can confirm that, okay, how the resolution is good and how safe it is, this technology is, right? So electron specimen interaction, that can be justified by few of the points. Excuse me, few of the points. So the very first thing, electron atom interaction. You just imagine this is a filament which is producing the electron beam focused to a specific material like this. Just imagine this is my material, which is going to fall on the surface. While it is getting interacted, what will happen? It will produce the secondary electrons. We know that, which is nothing but X-rays. We know that, right? How to produce X-rays? X-rays are nothing but secondary electrons. That's what, like if you go for a physician, if you have cracks or flaws on your bone, from where the secondary electrons will be emitted, and that will be magnified by using Bragg's law, and finally the doctor will say that you have minor crack in your bone. So secondary electrons are needed for this purpose, X-ray production. right? In the same way, we are expecting the electron which has to be focused, the electron beam which has to be focused from the filament to the material, your specimen. Okay, so another very important thing is, once if it is having direct interaction, electron beam, your specimen, when it is getting direct interaction, it will produce the secondary electrons which will escape from the specimen, and its kinetic energy is given here, which is around 5 electron volt. So that process is nothing but ionization. You need some energy to release one electron from the atom of your specimen. That is nothing but ionization energy. So here, by using electron beam, you are ionizing the secondary electrons. So the secondary electrons which will be coming out with some particular kinetic energy mentioned here and escaped from the atom, right? And these electrons are abundant, and secondary electrons and its yield, that is the number emitted per primary electron. What is primary electron here? My electron beam from the filament of tungsten. What is secondary electron here? Electrons emitted from your specimen, right? So you need to understand this, right? So how about the resolution here? The secondary electrons and its numbers will justify the current density. If the current density is high, and your resolution will also be very high. So how to improve the current density? By accelerating the input voltage. So that's the reason why we need to go for SEM tool, scanning electron microscopic tool, which is expecting 15 kilovolt of input energy to produce electron beam. So that is very extreme value, very high value, right? So that much energy is needed for the proper high resolution pictures. That's it. Okay. Second, another possibility is, secondary electron production is the first point, and second point it says backscattered electrons. So what is backscattering, and how it happens in your specimen? So once if the primary electron is focused on your material, if ionization not happen, the electrons which is falling on your specimen will be getting scattered back, and that will be coming out as the secondary electrons that will be collected. It strongly depends on the atomic number of your specimen. That is called backscattered electrons, right? So by using this atomic structural and picture, you are able to understand what is happening, right? So I am focusing the electron beam to your material's atom. So once if it is getting interacted, so here it is nucleus. Electrons are revolving around the nucleus, that we know as per the theory how atomic structure would be. So the backscattered electrons are coming here as from the previous, I mean from the primary electron beam, which is getting scattered back and coming out. And another thing, this electron beam may have the collision with the electrons revolving in any of the shell around the nucleus, will be getting ionized, which is called secondary electrons. So from the backscattered electrons and from the secondary electrons, we are able to process the information about that particular specimen that you want to analyze and magnify it in the form of pictures. Okay, right. And third possibility is Auger electrons. There are three major possibilities. One is secondary electron production, backscattered electron production, and the third one is Auger electrons, which is also very simple to understand. In Auger electronic principle, what it says, like apart from ionization and secondary electron production, apart from backscattering electrons and its production, this is the third third possibility, Auger electrons. You just imagine, you have the primary electron beam which is going to ionize one electron from its inner shell. This electron is going to be escaped as secondary electrons by the primary electron beam of your source. So here some vacancy will be created. This is nothing but hole. To fill up this vacancy, one electron from the outermost shell will be jumping to the inner shell. That's also possible. So it will be jumping from the outermost shell to the inner shell to occupy this particular vacancy. So that time some energy will be liberated. that energy is more than sufficient to ionize one more electron. Understand what I am telling? By the primary electron, we are ionizing inertial electrons. To fill up that vacancy, electron from the outermost shell is jumping to that particular vacancy. So here, some amount of energy will be liberated. That energy is more than sufficient to ionize one more electron. So from the Auger electron, this electron is nothing but Auger electron. So Auger electrons, secondary electrons, backscatter electrons. Three types of electrons will be ejected from your material will justify the quality of the pictures that you are going to obtain as a SEM output. Okay. Yeah, this part is very important part that you need to understand what is happening on the time of the interaction of electron beam and your specimen. So your specimen is here. Secondary electrons which is coming out from your material according to the depth of the primary electron which is going to have the interaction is given here, and Auger electrons which will also be possible. X-rays in the form of secondary electrons, that will also be possible. So here only one major thing that you want to understand is depth of penetration. Electron beam, how much depth it's going to penetrate, which is inversely proportional to the atomic number of your specimen. Inversely proportional to the atomic number of your specimen and directly proportional to the energy of the electrons. Okay, so if your input energy is high, then it is able to penetrate more on your specimen. That's what we want. That's the reason why we need to go for 15 kilovolt of input energy is needed for this purpose. Very high accelerated voltage is needed. Okay, so another picture. This is a block diagram. What are the internal parts of the scanning electron microscope? That is indicated here. You could see the electron gun, which is enabled by the filament of tungsten or any other filament, lanthanum based filaments will be here. That will produce electron beams. In optical microscopy, we need lenses. We need lenses to direct the picture, which is captured as virtualized image that can be magnified by the lenses. Right. Here also we are using lenses. Even the previous presentation, we know what is the need of objective lens. Here also we have objective lens. But in optical energy, if you are working, then it is very easy for you to understand the glass medium based lenses can be used here. But we are working with electrons. We are working with electrons. Then how? What type of lenses are going to be used to direct your electron beam produced from your gun to the specimen? Specimen is here at the bottom. You can see here. Right? So we need to direct the electron beams towards your specimen in proper pathway. For that we need lenses here. There are two sets of lenses we are using, condenser lens and objective lens. What kind of lens it is? It's a magnetic lens. It's not like a glass based lenses that we are using and enjoying in our cameras or even optical microscopy. We are using these two sets of lenses made by magnets. So you know the relationship between magnetic field and electric field. Once if you produce a magnetic flux in this medium, the electrons will be directed in a proper pathway towards the specimen. That's what we need the lenses. And the vacuum pumps to evacuate the whole environment. Let me say why we need such vacuum environment here. And the specimen holder is here, the specimen is placed over here, and some scan coils and all, these are also additional support, and scan generator, waveform monitor, amplifier and all, which is also embedded. And finally the picture that you are going to get from the specimen structure is here. In nanoscale you are able to magnify the pictures, beautiful pictures can be obtained. Another block diagram which will say you how the electron beam produced will be focused to the specimen. So the electron gun will produce the electron beam, and that will be directed by the lenses, and the primary lens is acting like anode, and here the electron gun is acting like cathode from where the electrons will be produced and focused. So anode is here, magnetic lenses are here to focus it in proper way. Scanning coils will scan the particular amount of the quantity of electron beam which is focused that will be directed towards the specimen, and we are able to produce the secondary electrons, backscattered electrons, Auger electrons as the outcome of your specimen interaction. So those electrons will be detected by the detector, and that will be given to the scanner to process it by using digital image processing technique. Right. So electrons are accelerated by nearby anode that I have already shown here. Anode is also a lens. Source of illumination is a filament, that is cathode. Electron gun is a filament, and then pass through the tiny hole to form the electron beam. Magnetic coils are needed to focus the beam, and finally which is getting scattered from the specimen, and its energy of the electron scattered is also given here in some kilovolts. This is also another picture. We have the source, our material is here, electrons are focused, which is getting diffracted, backscatter electrons are coming out like this, secondary electrons will be coming out like this in the form of X-rays. So X-ray detector is here, that will be detected and make it as a picture. Another picture to understand it properly. Primary beam, backscattered electrons, backscatter electrons, and secondary electrons. So three types of electrons will be collected by three different collectors, and we have some photo multiplier. It's like a photo tube of, I mean, the picture tube of old CRT based television, and that will process it, and finally the picture will be coming out like this. And this is also very very important. Suppose if I use a specimen which is not proper in its uniformity on its surface, then the edges which is eliminated by the by the electron beam on the specimen surface will be producing more and more electrons according to the edges. So just imagine like a rigid body which is going to produce the secondary electrons by your primary electrons. The edges are very sensitive to produce a number of electrons. That's what they are saying. Another thing, resolution. Its maximum resolution can be calculated by the two closely placed objects as two entities rather than single object. Instead of obtain a particular picture, each and every point of that picture is able to be defined as nothing but the resolution. So by pixels we are able to represent it. So that's what we are going for 13 megapixel camera or 16 megapixel. It's all based on the way how the resolution is properly obtained from the picture taken by the same camera. So the maximum spot size on a particular spot which is going to be focused by your primary electron is able to be calculated here by using some example which is given here. Just understand. You may ask me a question. 15 kilovolt of very high amount of accelerated voltage in the form of electron beam is generated, and which is focused on a sample. You just imagine how the sample would be. Suppose 15 kilovolt of input energy is given to a simple specimen like a mosquito, like a fly, and its body structure we want to analyze. It will go off. I can't even imagine that much of energy if I apply, what will happen. But still I can obtain the pictures. How? Let me show you a simple videograph. From this you could understand with some good example. You know what it is? Butterfly wing, and its surface will be like this. This is a coral spot. Is it visible? Beetle eye, floor beetle eye skeleton, floor beetle and its surface, body surface, skeleton of Kedlos and its head, lice and its mouth, head lice, lichen, the skin patterns, skin surface of human being, how it would be, moth vein, and humor pictures, floor beetle and its external appearance, floor beetle eye, the compound eye, it contains number of eyes, head lice, head lice compared with human hair, fly and its head, normal fly, and the fly and its eye, compound eye. This is rat tongue surface with tasty buds of rat. Yeah, this one. Rat's tongue with bacteria. So the how the bacteria is sitting on. Okay, so so these are all the possibilities to be magnified like this, even though if it is a biological sample. And you may ask me how the electrons without any damage, which is hitting on the surface, interacting on the surface of, for example, rat's tongue. This is a biological one, right? Biological sample without any distortion or without any damage. How it's producing the output like this? Any idea? How can I magnify these biological samples by using electrons? If electron beam is focused on a biological sample which is very tiny, then how can I expect this thing? Any idea? No idea. So let me say, if I want to take such kind of beautiful picture of a fly and its compound eye, the fly has to be captured, and its body, or especially the eye, suppose we want to magnify, that particular part has to be coated with some unique conducting layer. If my sample is conductive, then I can focus the electrons to the conducting medium, and from its surface the electrons will be getting emitted, not directly on the biological samples like flies or rat or whatever the animal or any bird cannot be magnified. Any biological sample cannot be magnified if it is not conducting. So the primary part is to make that particular sample to be conducting one. So I need to coat its surface properly by the conducting material like gold or any other material to be used. Okay. So another thing, the major possibility is noise. That's a very common issue even here in scanning electron microscope. We are expecting the primary electron which is focused on the surface of your material has to be properly ejected out, which has to produce the secondary electrons and backscatter electrons. Sometimes, because of the originating locations, which is not properly accepting the primary electrons, and if it is poor in producing the secondary electrons, then the noise in the form of distortion will be coming out, and we need to rectify that too. That's very simple. Okay, as I have shown in the previous slide, the secondary electron detector is a major part to process the structure of that particular material or specimen that you want to magnify, uh, which is integrated with scintillator photomultiplier. So photomultiplier is simply like a CRT based old television and its picture tube, and scintillator is new for you. So let us see which is combined. I mean both are combined together, which was innovated in 1960. So this is a secondary electron detector. So as per the theory, the electron will be focused on a fly, which is a sample here for our example. Okay, so the secondary electrons will be produced, that will be collected by the secondary electron collector. And as I said, photomultiplier is a part of the secondary electron collector and scintillator. So here the scintillator would be here. So what is the need of a scintillator that we know? We should know. So anyhow, let me explain. And the backscattered electrons will be coming out. Maximum number of secondary electrons would be collected by your secondary electron collector. That will give you excellent resolution. So the amount of X-rays created by the primary electrons will provide you the excellent outcome of the scanning electron microscope's output. Even compare with backscatter electrons or even Auger electrons. So we have to prefer X-rays to be produced properly. Okay, fine. So let me magnify that part. As I said, the photomultiplier part is here, and this is a whole setup of secondary electron detector. So the secondary electrons which will be collected by this scintillator, that is nothing but some aluminum coated tube which is applied with very high amount of positively charged potential. It's given like plus 200 volts. The scintillator is also being a part which is applied with some plus 12,000 volts. Why plus? Because we need to attract the opposite charges. Here the secondary electrons were produced with some particular kinetic energy coming out from the specimen has to be attracted by the positively charged. So we need to apply this collector with 200 volts, and 1200 volts of scintillator is also being here. The scintillator is coated with aluminum that will allow the electrons to be converted into light energy, and this is acting like the light guide or light pipe. So the converted electrons in the form of photonic energy will be conducted and transferred to the photomultiplier part. Here we have the photoelectrons which has uh, increased in its energy by the number of diodes as a part of this photomultiplier. So again and again and again and again, it's an amplification part, like how the photonic energy is going to be energized by number of diodes. So the diodes are placed over here that will reflect the number of photons again and again, and finally the proper resolution is pictures will be coming out, and which will be given to the CRT based tools. So that may be a monitor that will showcase what information that you are going to collect as a secondary electron of your specimen. So these things are explained here. So in the examination, there is a possibility to ask you to write about secondary electron detector alone. There is a possibility because this part also it costs around 1.5 crores. It alone, suppose we want to buy, because we need to apply very high amount of potential to these devices, which has to withstand with that particular amount of input. So all the points whatever I explained is given here, right? So finally what they are trying to say is the increasing the photomultiplier gain by the diodes, number of diodes placed inside, will increase the contrast of the image. So this is what we need, the contrast and proper resolution of the images that we want, and some of the excellent pictures. uh, Generally the carbon structure, if you want to analyze by using optical microscope, it would be like this, and even SEM with 400x will be like this, and the same scanning electron microscope with 3000 times if you are able to magnify, then its beautiful structure, the proper structural information can be obtained. And another example, this is one of the unknown medium, unknown object, and its surface, if it is analyzed by optical microscope, its resolution is restricted, and if you go for SEM of 400x, it will be like this, and SEM of 3000x, you are able to magnify this particular part also in nanoscale, and which will produce the very high resolution. I'll take to you to scanning electron microscope laboratories located in hexagon of VIT. We have that facility since 2014. You can use your sample, suppose you want to magnify your samples, if it is a scientific sample, VIT supports you to go for the microscopic technique. Let me take you when time permits, probably let us complete the syllabus first, and then definitely one day we can go for nanotechnology laboratory and local visits. What are the facilities available with different domains, the people working in this area? Okay, thank you. Any questions? Anything you want to ask regarding this? scanning electron microscopy. This is one of the introduction, because once if we want to go for practical application of the scanning electron microscope, as I said, we need to coat the biological samples with conducting medium like gold or something. Okay, each and every step it contains some physics. So we need to understand it properly. This is one of the introduction part of scanning electron microscope. So practically, if you wish to go and absorb how scanning electron microscope works, by using my name, you can go to hexagon 131. There we have that facility, and one professor will be there. He's an in charge. He's well known person for me. So directly you can spell out my name, and you can directly enjoy the process if it goes on. Okay, scanning electron microscopic technique. It's an excellent tool. Excellent tool. Even compare with all other microscopic techniques. Okay, fine.